The EU and the IMF appear to be nearing a deal on Greece's debt bailout. That is according to German Finance Minister Wolfgang Schäuble, who said both sides have reached a common position. The IMF says Greece needs more time to pay its debts before any more rescue funds are released. But until now, the EU didn't agree. Eurozone finance ministers have been meeting in Brussels to discuss the Greek debt crisis and other issues, including how to prevent multinational corporations from dodging taxes. Let's go to Brussels now, and Elena Casas has been keeping a close watch on all of those developments. Elena, thank you ever so much for being with us. Let's start in Greece. It sounds like Greece's lenders, the IMF and the EU, European lenders, are getting closer to an agreement, but they're not there yet, are they?
Indeed not. As you said, the big split here isn't really between Greece itself and its creditors, but between the European creditors, especially Germany, and the IMF. The IMF, of course, isn't part of the current bailout because it believes that Greece's debt load is not sustainable and that European creditors must agree to relieve some of it before there can be any hope that Greece can ever start to repay that money. So the IMF director, Christine Lagarde's meeting with Angela Merkel tomorrow in Berlin is going to be very closely watched. The signals going out ahead of it are that they are starting to be on the same page, that EU countries are likely to offer something like a longer frame of time over which Greece could repay its money rather than an actual debt haircut, and then that might be enough for the IMF to get on board. But it's very important for Eurozone governments, especially Germany, that the IMF does agree. They sold this deal to their own electorates by saying the IMF would be there as a guarantor to prevent the profligate Greeks running off with any more German taxpayer money, or at least that's how the German tabloids would see it in what is, of course, also an election year in Germany. So they really need to win the IMF over. They certainly say they're changing the emphasis of Greece's bailout with the aim to try and get the IMF more on side. The aim at the moment isn't just austerity and more cutting, the finance ministers say. They're trying to rebalance the weight, so it's also more about structural reform that could benefit Greece. But really, they're throwing everything they have at it, Eurozone finance ministers, to try and woo the IMF.
And just quickly, Elena, what's the reaction been amongst the Greeks to all of this?
Well, the Greek government has said it will not accept €1 more in austerity or spending cuts. They said that, the Prime Minister Tsipras said that ahead of the Eurozone finance minister meeting. He said it yesterday. He now does seem to have backed down, at least up to a point. The Eurozone finance ministers say that Greece has agreed to look into other possible tax and pension reforms, with the bailout inspectors who are going to be on their way to Athens fairly soon to start talking about a new package of measures. Now, pension reforms almost certainly means pension cuts, and that's something that the Greek government is going to find it very hard to sell to their own electorate. The left-wing Syriza government there was, of course, elected more than 2 years ago now on a platform of ending austerity, and instead European creditors have forced them to push through tougher and tougher measures, which their own voters see as a betrayal.
Elena Casas in Brussels, thank you ever so much.